Hello guys, good day and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, you're welcome. My name is Uluwatosin, and to all my returning subscribers, you're also welcome. Thank you so much for always stopping by my channel. Guys, in today's tutorial, we are going to be learning how to cut and sew a pleating dress, just like you are seeing on your screen, a long pleated dress. And guys, this dress is not going to have any form of that at all. No princess that, no straight that, no form of that at all. And this dress has inseam pocket. So we are going to be learning how to cut and sew a dress like this from start to finish. If this sounds like what you're interested in, without talking too much, let's jump right into the video and please come along with me. Here is the Ankara I'll be using for this project. Then I'll be mixing it with this other sequence. This is going to be on the yoke for the front panel, and basically here are the measurements required to cut a dress like this for any adult at all. So the first thing to put into consideration is to check out the highest measurement between the bust and waist, because we're going to be cutting the half length first, and to bring out half length you need to consider the bust and the waist. This person's bust is 39 and then the waist is 37. So I'm going to be folding my fabric into two, just like I'm doing after dividing the bust, which is the highest between the bust and the waist. You have to consider the highest measurement between the bust and the waist. In few cases it might be the person's waist, probably people that have big tummy or people that are pregnant, but most cases is always the person's bust. Is this consideration that will determine how much you are going to fold your fabric. I hope you guys get what I'm saying. So with this knowledge, after folding your fabric into two and measuring your bust divided by 4, you are going to add 1.5 inch sewing allowance or 2 inches sewing allowance at most, and this helps you to know the exact place to stop your fold. After that, you measure the half length plus 1.5 inch sewing allowance. This person's half length is 16, so I measured 17.5 and I proceeded to cutting that out. This is for the front panel of the half length. For the back panel, I'm just going to push my fabric forward a little because I have to add 1.5 inch allowance for zip. So I'm going to fold my fabric forward just like I'm doing, and then I'm going to measure what is at the back. It has to be at least 1.5 inch, at most 2 inches for the zip allowance. Then I'll proceed to cutting this out as well, and I'll open up the zip allowance. The next thing to do is look at where I'm starting my one from, not from the zip allowance. I'm going to measure the shoulder divided by 2 plus half inch sewing allowance. A armhole is actually 20, but at this point I'll be using 8 instead of 10. Then I'll proceed to drawing the armhole curve. The next thing to do is to measure our bust divided by 4 plus 1.5 inch sewing allowance that you added. Then our waistline divided by 4 plus 1.5 inch sewing allowance. Then I'm going to be connecting these two allowance points together. I mean the bust and the waistline allowance point. The next thing to do is to mark out my neck. The neck width is going to be 7. On fold of 2, I marked 3.5, and then the neck depth for front is going to be 4. The front is going to be a round neck and the back is going to be a V-neck. But for now, I'll be cutting round neck for both front and back. Then I'll proceed to cutting out the 4 inches round neck for the front. I'll keep that aside. I'll cut out the armhole. I'll cut out the shaping. Then I'm going to slant the shoulder with 1/4 inch or probably 1 inch towards the from the armhole towards the neckline, then proceeding to cutting out the back neckline, which is a V back. I'm just going to bring out my ruler and draw the V shape and proceed to cutting this out. I hope you guys get what I'm trying to say. And basically that is it for the half length. I'll keep it aside. Moving to the pleating part of the dress now. I have to consider how full I want this pleating to be, or probably it's going to be gathers. I have to know if it's going to be very full or moderately full or just there. In this case, it's not going to be full at all because the person I'm making this dress for doesn't want it full. So I'm just going to be considering where this pleating is entering, which is the waist. Then whatever the waist is, I'll be multiplying it by 2 at least, or 2.5 if I don't want it full. If I want it full, you can multiply the waistline times 4. If you want it very, very full, you can even multiply the waistline by 6. It depends on how full you want it to be. But for this particular tutorial, I'll be measuring the waistline times 2.5. Then I'll fold that into as much as my scissors can cut through. So I just folded it into four. Then I'll proceed to marking out the full length. A full length is actually 56. Then a half length is 16. I'll be putting the 16 up just like I did. And then I'll proceed to marking 56. I'll be adding just 1 inch allowance to the length, half inch for folding the down and half inch for attaching it to the half length on the waistline. I hope you guys get what I'm saying. So I'll just proceed to bringing this out. Like I said, the quantity you are using depends on how full you want your dress to be. So I'm going to open this up and fold it into four. Now we are trying to figure out where the pocket is going to be on this pleating part. You know, the pocket has to be on the pleating part, and you have to figure out where the pocket will be. So after folding into two, leaving zipper allowance at the back just like I did, the opposite, like the part laying down on the zip allowance, is the front. Definitely the opposite direction is the side, because if the other side is front and back, this side on your screen now is the side, and that is where the pocket will stay. So from the tip, measure 2 inches downward. The wideness of the pocket, measure 7 inches downward. Then from that 7 inches, measure another 2 inches downward. So in total, you are measuring 11 inches. From the beginning to 11 inches, you are going to cut that part open. After doing this, keep this apart. That is it for the pleating part of the dress. And moving back to the half cut now, I just want to cut like a yoke that is going to be on the front, a yoke for the front. It's not as if I'm replacing. This yoke is just going to stay on the fabric. I'm not going to cut out the ankara and then replace it with the velvet. No, I'll just place it on top of it just like I'm doing, and then I'll just proceed to cutting it out and then place it on the ankara and then turn everything together. It's not a yoke that you cut out, like remove and replace. This is going to stay on the ankara. Then I proceeded to cutting lining for the half length. Nothing serious, just cut lining, exact measurement. Just place it on the lining and then you cut. The next thing to do is to start sewing. To start sewing, you have to turn your neckline and then the sides first. This is the right side of the ankara facing up now. I'll be placing my yoke on it just like I'm doing. The right side of the yoke facing up as well. Then I'm going to place my lining on it and proceed to turning the neckline and the two sides. I'm not going to turn the armhole and the down. For the back, right side is facing up, and then I'm going to face my lining on the right side. So the lining has to be facing the right side. Then I'll proceed to turning the neckline. I'll turn the zip side, I'll turn the shaping side. I'm not going to turn the armhole, the shoulder line, and the down of the half length. After turning, this is what I have. I've turned, this is the front panel now. I turned the neckline with hemming gum so that the lining can stick to the main fabric. Then I added hemming gum to this part. My fingers are running across as well, so that the sequence or the velvet can just stick down a bit. Then I proceeded to turning the back panel as well. I added hemming gum to the neckline of the back panel, but I didn't press it, like I didn't iron it down so that it's not going to stick, because I need this back panel to turn the shoulder line. So to turn now, I'm going to place just like I've done now. Then I'll flip the lining to the lining side. Like lining will be on lining, and then the main fabric will be on the main fabric, right side facing right side. Then I'll proceed to stitching. This is me trying to turn the shoulder line now. After doing this, this is what my shoulder line is going to look like. It will be as neat as possible. So I'm going to repeat this same thing to the other side. So lining on lining, ankara on ankara, and then you stitch. After this, the next thing is to start shaping. Just put your front and back panel together just like I'm doing. Make sure the zip allowance is either lying on each other or facing each other. Then right side has to be facing right side. To shape from that point, you are going to divide the bust by 4. You are dividing by 4 now. This person's bust is 39. Divided by 4, 9.5 and quarter. I'm going to mark that. Then from that point, from the zip point, you are going to divide the waistline by 4. then you mark. Our waistline is 37 divided by 4 9 and quarter. I marked and then I proceeded to stitching. Flip it over to the other side and now you are dividing by 2, not by 4. So from the first place that you sew, you are going to divide the bust by 2, 39 divided by 2 in this case, and then you mark. Then the waistline 37 divided by 2 in this case, and then you mark. Then you proceed to sewing. I did not connect the 2 points together because I can just sew straight down, but if you know that you cannot, you can just connect the points together just like I'm doing, and then you proceed to stitching. After that, we are done shaping the half length, and then this is what is looking like. The next thing to do is you can now iron your back neckline so that the lining can stick to the ankara, and then you put your half cut together like this, and so that you can notch the middle. Then you keep this aside. Basically, that is it for the half cut. The next thing to do is to pick up your the piece we are using for the pleating. Now I've attached my inseam pocket to it. In my previous video, I uploaded a comprehensive tutorial on how I cut and attached this inseam pocket to this pleated part of this fabric. If you are interested, you should check out that video. I'll put the link up for you to check it out. So you're going to notch the middle of this piece you are using for the pleating as well, and then you bring back your half length, your half cut, however you call it. Then you are going to be pinning the two notches together. So middle of the half cut facing middle of the piece you are using for pleating, right side facing right side, you pin together. You know, since there is pocket now, automatically the side where the pocket is has to be on the side where you joined, where you shaped your half cut. Then from the zipper allowance, you are going to start pleating your piece. So when you get to your machine, you are going to sew inward with 1.5 inch first without any pleating before you start making your pleats. I hope that's clear. So just make your pleats depending on or according to the size you want. I know this depends on the quantity of fabric you are using to make your pleats. So in this case, it's going to be big pleats because I don't want this dress to be full at all. So I proceeded to making my pleat. If you want it very full, your pleat will not be as big as this. And if it's gathered, all you have to do is just gather your piece before attaching it to the half length. And when I was done doing this, I have something looking like this. The lower part, like the pleated part of this dress, is not going to have pleating. So I'm proceeding to fixing my zip. To fix zip, I'm going to put the zipper allowance together like this, right side facing right side, and I'll bring my zip and just mark where I want the zip to stop. And from that point that I marked to the whole length of the dress, I'm going to stitch it down. I'll stitch it down from that point to the whole length of the dress. And while I'm doing this, I have to make sure that the two half length points, they are facing each other directly. It's not like one will be up and then one will be down. After doing this, you proceed to fixing your zip the normal way you fix zip. Fix your zip to one side, flip your dress over to the other side, and then you fix your zip to the other side. Please, if at this point you are still with me and you've not subscribed, consider subscribing to my channel, and please, if you find this video interesting, do not forget to give this video a thumbs up, and if you have any question, please don't hesitate to ask me in the comment section. So I proceeded to fixing my zip, and when I was done fixing zip, the next thing I did was to retrim my armhole. Now, you remember that when we were cutting this dress, I used armhole of 8 instead of 10. It is at this point that I'm going to trim it to the actual armhole, which is 10. Multiplied by 2 is 20. This person's actual armhole is 20. So I'm going to retrim just like I'm doing. And after retrimming, I'll measure what I trimmed. to be sure that it is exactly 10. So I'm going to measure just like I'm doing, and if you check you would see that I measured 10. So I'll do this to the other armhole, and then I proceeded to cutting out my sleeve, and I just cut this pencil and pleating sleeve, nothing serious. And in case you don't understand how to cut the pencil sleeve, I have a detailed video on how to do that on my channel. I'll put the link up. So for the armhole in the sleeve, I measured 10, which is 20 as well, because the armhole on the sleeve has to tally with the armhole on the dress. Then I proceeded to attaching my sleeve to my dress. I folded the down of this dress with the half-inch allowance that I had it, and when I was done, this is what my dress is looking like. Thank you so much for sticking with me from the beginning of this video till this point. I hope you found this video interesting and helpful. If you did, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. If you've not subscribed, kindly do. In case you have any question, like I said earlier, do not hesitate to ask me in the comment section. I'll see you in my next tutorial. Bye.